Greetings, adventurers. This is Lorne, your guild advisor, and we got some more DanMemo news for you today. They did a live stream earlier this morning. It was really just a producer, and they did it on YouTube, unlike last time where it was on an app, so it was of higher quality. And unexpectedly, I should have expected this anyway because our current OVA event is about to expire, so of course it's going to be replaced with a new event. But the surprising thing is that it is indeed called Certain Gods and Familial Love Songs, and this will launch tomorrow night on the 15th of April. But the cool thing is, like, I wake up in the morning, see the stream after playing Final Fantasy VII Remake for a very long time, stretching that as much as I can into the night, having to wake up for work. And I see the new Welf, and I'm like, I recognize what this Welf is supposed to resemble. And then I see Mikoto, I'm like, oh, I know what that's supposed to be. And I see Riri, and then I see Haruhime. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is actually the content in Light Novel Volume 8 that they kind of skipped over in Season 2 of the anime. So it's really cool that we're going to see this stuff adapted into the game. Because it is Mikoto, Lily, Welf, and Haruhime. There's two other character side stories that I'm wondering if we'll get that in this event, or if we'll get it in the future one, and that is involving both Seer and Aina. Seer is very special in this regard because her story that's in Volume 8 that was skipped in the anime has some foreshadowing for what's going to happen in Season 3, so I'm wondering if they're going to include that in this event or not. But it is exciting to see these new characters and getting these new units for these characters, and seeing that we're actually getting an adaptation of the stuff that was skipped over in Volume 8. I always complain about this, but they did the same thing for Naza when they skipped through her stuff in Season 1. We had the Quest event. I was really happy to see that we got that content in some type of fashion. But for people that only watch the anime, it is kind of unfortunate because they might not care about playing a gacha game like DanMemo. They might not care to like watch the event. So it is unfortunate if you like want to experience all the DanMachi story through one medium. You just can't because the anime skipped over some stuff. But it is here in some fashion with voice acting, so that's really nice to see. And if you do clear the event, you get a 4-star guaranteed 11 draw ticket. And it does say a Love Songs ticket, so it should guarantee one of the new characters. And as for how the banner is divided, it is Mikoto and Lily on one banner called Affection. It's a standard banner getting a 4-star guarantee character from the banner on the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th draw. And then of course the reverse banner is Haruhime and Welf, called the Passion banner, with the same type of setup. And I'm really excited to see this Welf because he has a good backstory that I wanted to see animated, and we probably will never see Welf's backstory animated because they handled the last 2 episodes of Season 2 in such a way where it's pretty much impossible to just like go back and animate Welf's backstory. But I'm glad to see that we're probably going to get it here in the game itself. And as for Welf, of course, here's Determined Welf. And his armor is what kind of gave it away for me before even seeing the translation for what the event was. Like, I see the type of armor we're giving him. Like, it has a very, very regal look, and it's very appropriate for what Welf's backstory is. Here you can see that he is indeed a magic attacker with that max magic stat of 1900. Very even stat, 1900. And I want to also thank, as always, Simhow6567 from Discord on the DanMemo Reddit Discord server for all the translations here. For his special arts, it's a single target ultra fire magic attack that will increase in damage by 40% for each magic buff skill and fire attack damage buff skill on him. So a maximum of a 160% increase, and it will also remove all strength and magic buffs, excluding assist skills, from the target. So obviously, right away, you can tell this is a character meant for single target fights, like Record Buster, like any single target boss fights that may occur in something like Familiar Rush or Familiar Royale. And as for his combat skills, his first skill is simply a buff to all allies that increases their special arts gauge charge gain by 33%, and also increases their magic, dexterity, and fire attack damage by 30 for 4 turns. So kind of a nice move to set up like a Record Buster run if you have like a lot of fire magic characters, which is probably what you want to run Welf with, increasing the charge gain by 33%, and then also the magic, dexterity, and fire attack damage of your characters. And because he does have that first skill, you may not even need to include Line, who does that gauge charge. A lot of people like to include in their teams, at least for the first turn, and swap her out for another character via the revolving amulet. You don't even need to do that if you have this Welf. And then his second skill is a AoE fast high fire magic attack that will increase the amount of single target and AoE damage that your opponents will take by 20% for 3 turns. So he also removes the need to like cycle in a character that will increase the amount of single target damage or AoE damage a character will take. Like a lot of people use the idol on a kitty to debuff the opponents in Record Buster, so they take more damage in single target attacks, and you don't even need to include on a kitty, and can use a different unit for both Lina and on a kitty to get different types of buffs by use of the revolving amulets. It's very interesting to see. You might be able to explore different setups and options when you use this Welf with a team that is appropriate to use with him. And then for his third skill, it's a single target super fire magic attack with a temporary magic boost and ultra penetration rate, and it will also give your allies a 40% HP regen for 2 turns. So a very hard hitting move, like the default single target move that you will use, and a lot of HP regen, so it will decrease the need for you to constantly heal in stuff like Record Buster. And then as for his notable passives, he has a fire element counter. He does 20% more damage on penetrations, 50% more damage on counters, and possesses the Dragon Killer ability, so we're probably up for some type of event where we'll be facing a dragon type unit, and you'll want Welf to deal extra damage against it. And then for our second character is the Faithful Lily. She looks kind of cute here. I kind of like how some of her hair is to the side. And then as for her stats, she is a physical attacker, not really something you imagine Lily to be, especially wearing the dress like that. But she has a max attack strength of 1973, max Limit Break, max Hero Ascension. And as for her special arts, it's an AoE Ultra Dark Physical attack with a temporary strength boost and ultra penetration rate. And it also increases your allies' dexterity by 50% and decreases your opponent's dexterity by 50% for 2 turns. So it is a hard-hitting move. The dexterity buff and debuff is interesting because I don't really think many teams are too focused on building up dexterity, but I guess it will be an interesting skill to use if you're worried about opponents building that up. I think the Xmas Chikasa uses a dexterity buff, but that's something for war games, and Chikasa is not exactly something that you should be focusing on countering because she's just not used enough in that regard. But as for Lily's combat skills, her first skill is a single target high dark physical attack with a temporary strength boost and ultra critical rate, which is a pretty standard hard-hitting single target move. And as for her second skill, it is a fast dexterity buff of 30% to your allies, and a debuff to your opponents for strength, magic, and dexterity of 30% for 4 turns. It is a skill that will likely go first in the turn order because there is no attack component and the game prioritizes buffs and debuffs first, especially with that fast modifier. So this will likely go first and it will increase your dexterity, but the bigger component is of course that debuff to strength, magic, and dexterity on your opponents. It is a decent amount, being 30% for 4 turns. And her third skill seems to be targeted towards war games. It's an AoE high dark physical attack with a temporary strength boost and ultra uncounter rate. And regarding your opponent's physical resistance buffs, magic resistance buffs, and elemental resistance buffs, it will decrease the duration of those by 3 turns. Now, you might want to point to the Otaro that released last week, and he has a self buff of 50% to physical magic resistance. I don't think this is like a directly supposed to counter Otaro, but rather the Christmas Haruhime that increases both physical and magic resistance to everyone on the team. I think this is more of a counter to that because there are a lot of stall type teams that use that Haruhime, and this Lily is probably an attempt to somewhat counter that, and then any future units that will increase elemental resistances as well. And as for a notable passive, she has a dark element component to her counter. She has a passive 15% physical resistance and magic resistance boost, and also does 50% more damage on her counters. And this is the new Mikoto, and pardon my attempt on this French word, pâtissière Mikoto. Gosh, me pronouncing that word with a French accent and trying to immediately go into a Japanese one, it's weird. But she looks great. I like her in black. Really matches her character. and she is a magic attacker, though her attack stat isn't as high as Welf's, being 1747. And for her special arts, it's an AoE Ultra Fire magic attack with a temporary magic boost and ultra penetration rate, and it will increase the counter rate of your allies by 50% and decrease the guard rate of your opponents by 50% for 2 turns. Now this is an interesting special arts, like, because you would think this is intended for war games, but it's interesting that it decreases your opponent's guard rate by 50%, because by the time this special arts is used, you would think the match is almost over. So I wonder if this Mikoto special art is going to be that big of a deal or not. And then for his combat skills, her first skill is a single target super fire magic attack that will increase in damage by 35% for each magic resistance debuff on the opponent, and it also has an ultra unguard rate. So obviously you want to be making sure you have an assist that applies a magic resistance debuff, and also using Mikoto's own skill that will reduce magic resistance to your opponents to take advantage of that skill, that hard-hitting single target skill. And then her second skill is an AoE fast strength, magic physical resistance, and fire resistance debuff of 25% for 2 turns. So a lot of debuffs happening there, just a general overall debuff to your opponent's offensive capabilities and defensive capabilities. And it will pair really well with, of course, a fire magic team. And for her third skill, it's a fast high fire magic attack with an ultra uncounter rate, and will also increase the duration of your opponent's status debuffs by 3 turns, which is kind of a significant amount. So if you set her to debuff in something like War Games, she'll use her skill 2 once, and then she should default to skill 3 and use that constantly, unless of course you defeat one of your opponents and then the game will register like, oh hey, the character just came in, doesn't have a debuff, better use skill 2 now. So we'll see how effective skill 3 is going to be, but I think Mikoto might be an interesting character to use, though I think the fire idle magic characters Lafia and Philbus are still prime candidates for a fire magic team when it comes to war games. And then for her notable passives, her counterattacks will actually increase the status buff durations on your allies by 1 turn. So if they have a status buff, it will extend that duration anytime Mikoto counters. She does 10% more damage on crits and 10% more damage on penetrations. And then finally moving on to the final character, the assist character Devotion Haruhime in her maid outfit. Now at first glance it looks like she has some rather mediocre stats, but the high outlier is that 610 agility, and I think that's probably the highest agility stat that we've seen on an assist character, and that's probably the main reason people will be wanting to use this Haruhime. And it actually edges out Orna's max agility by about 7 points, but it may not matter too much in the long run, because the way the game works with agility is that it kind of divides it into tiers. Rather than like, oh, your raw agility is 1 point higher than your opponent, you will go first. It doesn't actually work like that. It's like it has like agility tiers, and then it tosses a coin instead, which I don't understand. Special arts work that same way. Like, even though your character has a higher agility, if both your opponent and yourself have a chance to use a special art, your opponent might just go before you, even though you have a higher agility. So it's kind of frustrating in that regard. I hate RNG in anything in general. And as for assist skill +5, it will increase the amount of damage your opponents take from single target and AoE attacks, and it will also give your allies a passive 20 MP regen per turn. So 20 doesn't seem too significant, but if you add that over time and like something like Record Buster, it actually does add up, because over the course of 15 turns, that's about 300 MP, and that's quite significant to some characters who have very high cost MP skills. And this is the login bonus that will go live on the 16th. Not too much crazy stuff going on here. Like, I see 70 Iris in total. You see 2 3-star tickets, nothing too substantial, but it would help any newer type players that are struggling for resources. And here is, of course, paid bundles. Spend your money how you want to. I don't recommend doing it, especially in these dire times during the pandemic, but again, it's your money, do what you want. And this is, of course, another paid bundle for part 4 of the US 2nd anniversary bundle, and this time it includes an assist prism bond. And I'm just really wondering, like, is this all that the 2nd anniversary is going to be for the United States? Like, they had a survey a while ago where they had you vote for your favorite characters, and it seemed like we're taking these votes so we can make a new unit for those characters. Like, I don't know if that's going to be part of the second anniversary. It doesn't really feel like it. Like, maybe they're going to take that into account when it comes to the third anniversary for Japan. I don't know. We'll just see how that goes. And then, of course, remember, we're going to get a weekly free 11 draw again, and this will happen on the 17th, so look forward to that. And this right here kind of makes me slightly worried about the anime itself, because I've said time and time again, I'm very worried about the anime because I want it to be delayed, because JC Staff is working on a number of anime and they're having production issues with one of them right now being Railgun. It's been delayed like several times, like it's not happening this week, it's not happening this week. And I'm just really wondering if Season 3 really is going to come out in summer. But right now, it just looks like they're just trying to act like it is. And we'll see what really happens, but this is part of the build-up to Season 3. This is the Bell Crannel only gacha, and it says a throwback project to celebrate the coming release of the third season of DanMachi. A pickup gacha will be updated each week, so I guess a new character will be happening each week. So this first time free 11 draw. I wonder if that's like a separate banner, because you don't see a free 11 draw on this opening picture right here. But here you see it's a 200 Irish draw on the first, third, 5th, 7th, and 9th polls, and then you get a guaranteed 4-star Bell on the 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and 10th. Like, this is kind of fun, but there's so many Bell units, like, you're not gonna get one and that you like are aiming for. Like, if you need that last bond for a certain Bell, you're probably not going to get it because there's so many of them. But you do see the Last Christmas Bell on here, so it looks like there'll be characters that are time limited that will show up on these banners. So that's like a glimmer of hope that you might get those characters because they are time limited, but you might want to save your iris for something that has like less units as a character. Like Tiona doesn't have too many units, even though Haruhime is constantly getting them right now. But we'll probably get Tiona with the Volume 6 event for Sororatoria. And happening starting tonight is the Familia War game, so make sure your Familias are set and your comps are ready to go, because you don't want to make your Familia angry if you forgot to set your team for Familia War game. And of course, running alongside in tandem with that is the Training War game also tonight. No Iris rewards there besides like the daily 5 battle participation rewards, so at least do that. And just an overview of the upcoming schedule. Again, remember, subtract a day from all these dates because it's in Japan Standard Time. So on the 14th, which is tonight, is the Familia War game and the War Game Training, and then tomorrow night on the 15th is the Certain Gods of Familia Love Songs event, along with the launch of the banners, and you'll also have the launch of the special bundles for the event and the second anniversary for the United States. And then on the 16th is the start of the Bell Crannel only gacha, and the first time free 11 draw is available too. I'm guessing it's a separate banner, and then it's also the login bonus start for the actual Certain Gods of Familia Love event. And then on the 17th will be the second anniversary free 11 draw part 4, and that's pretty much everything here. I'm really happy that we're seeing some of the content that was skipped in Season 2 in regards to Light Novel Volume 8 being added into the game. Like I said, there is a Seer side story and an Ana side story that's in Volume 8, and because they're not getting units, it makes me wonder if they're actually not included in this event or not. If they aren't, I hope they try to include that in some type of fashion in the future, because especially Seer's story is somewhat relevant to Season 3. So before that happens, I hope they try to get Seer's story out there. And if they don't, I should have videos coming out before Season 3's release that goes over the stuff that's skipped in Volume 2 in general, and then of course a lot of the stuff in Volume 8 of the light novels. But of course, I always encourage you guys to read the light novels, especially because I'm not too happy with how Season 2 handled the War Game arc especially. Anyway guys, hope you have good luck on your rolls. We're getting a lot of new characters. We just had them last week, now we're getting even more characters. So hopefully you guys aren't too spent on your iris. And also keep in mind that the Japanese 3rd anniversary is getting closer and closer, so you might want to start trying to save the iris for that as well. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more DanMachi content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Twitter and join my Discord. And as always, continue enjoying your time venturing around and a dungeon. This is Lauren, your guild advisor, signing out.